As millions of refugees leave Ukraine to escape the Russian invasion, so do millions of animals, all needing food, water, and shelter at the border. Joining us now from Poland is Kelly Donithan. She is the Director of Animal Disaster Response with Humane Society International. Kelly, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. How are things going over there?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. Things are going pretty well given the circumstances. Obviously, none of us want to be seeing what's happening here and in Ukraine. But thankfully, for especially for those that are able to get out with their animals, there is massive support here in Europe to help keep families together and provide refugees with the animal needs that they may have as they bring their pets across borders.
Now, we've seen the pictures of refugees carrying their pets for miles as they cross the border looking for safety. What kinds of conditions are these animals in when they get to you in Poland?
Yeah, I mean, I think people would really assume that they would be in far worse condition. And while we do see animals, with a certain amount of stress, they're remarkably actually pretty good for the most part. Obviously, everybody's gone through a traumatic experience. I mean, the war itself is just so hard on the people and animals. But I think the fact that showing that when their bond is able to be preserved and kept together, that does wonders for resiliency in these types of situations. So there's obviously some stress and confusion that we're seeing with the animals, but most of them are relatively in good health. And I think as long as they're able to stay with their owners or family, they're doing pretty well. Even some of the animals that we're seeing coming from the different shelters in Ukraine are also, I mean, it's clear that they've been well taken care of, and somebody has really tried their best to make sure that they have a better life ahead of them. So we're just so heartened and amazed to see how well people have been able to care for animals while their own lives are at such risk.
It is amazing. And in some cases, they're putting their lives more at risk to be able to make sure that their pet's able to make that journey. Now, you're not only helping just pets, though, but also street animals that have made their way to the border?
Yeah, so we have partners here in Poland and in Romania that are accepting and taking animals that are coming either from the streets or some of the private shelters in Ukraine, and they're taking those animals on. There are some different restrictions in place in terms of quarantine and veterinary checks, which requires, quite a bit more costs. And so we're helping by providing funding to those partners to make sure that they're able to maximize their efforts helping these animals. And we've heard just incredible stories. There was a woman who was from Ukraine living in the U.S. when the war started. She had been caring for some dogs on the street in her area. She flew back to Ukraine from the U.S. after the war started and was able to get those dogs and bring them to Poland. And one of our partners now here in Krakow have those dogs and are caring for them, and will put them up for adoption once they're, past their quarantine process. And so, just incredible stories of courage and compassion.
Yeah, I know that people in different parts of the world have different relationships with animals. What are you seeing as far as in Eastern Europe in general? Because at least from the outset, the stories we've heard, it seems like they love animals like we do here in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think through a lot of our work internationally, while it sometimes might look a little bit different, we find that the human animal bond is actually incredibly strong all over the world. And here, especially, we're seeing, a very strong companion animal culture of having dogs and cats as part of your life and your family. And just like I think many of us in the US or other parts of Europe would feel, if we were forced to leave at some point, we would want to take all of our family members with us. And so it does add a lot of complication to an already horrific and difficult situation. But at the same time, it's so important because they are our family. And that's what we're seeing here in Eastern Europe is that's how people view their animals, and not even just, their their own personal pets, but the animals that they may care for if they work in a shelter, or if they work at a zoo and they care for animals there, or a wildlife rehabilitation center. They really value the individual animal's life and wanting to care for them. We've seen, places that do work with bats really, putting their own lives at risk to make sure the bats are being cared for and that they're able to be released at the appropriate time. And so there's just so many instances that, of that connection and that value of life in general that we're seeing here with this crisis.
All right. And if people want to help out, what can they do?
Well, they can definitely donate. I mean, we're trying really hard while we're helping animals that are getting across the border. We're also doing our very best to get money and supplies and things into Ukraine. There are still so many thousands of animals that are in really serious, desperate situations throughout Ukraine that we're working on helping. We're also looking to be, here for the long term to help refugees, provide for their pets' medical needs for many months to come, because this unfortunately isn't going to end tomorrow. So definitely donating at hsi.org is one option. But I think also making sure that you have your own preparations. I mean, hopefully we would never see a situation like this, but disasters do happen, and making sure that you are prepared to take your animals with you is really important.
It's a good reminder, especially here in earthquake country. All right, Kelly Donithan,
Director
Director of Animal Disaster Response with Humane Society International. We appreciate all your good work over there.
Thank you so much.